AMD will never be the same, folks. There's developments going on here with AMD that are the biggest we have seen in this company in the past 10 years. Now, when I first started following AMD stock, it was about 10 years ago. And I remember the first time I looked at the stock, it was a $2 chuck. It was a company that looked like they might end up going bankrupt. And I remember looking at the company and being like, it's interesting, but, I don't know about this company. Their financials are a mess. Like, I don't even know if they're going to make it, those sorts of things. And it was a $2 chuck at that time. And here we are a decade later, and the stock's $115. What an accomplishment. The first time I ever spoke about AMD stock publicly was over 8 years ago on the channel. I did a video called Is AMD Stock a Buy? Got 20,000 people to watch it. I appreciate the 20,000 that showed up for that one. Not sure how many of you guys still rocking with me all these years later, but appreciate you, okay? But that was the first time I ever spoke about AMD stock. And at that particular time, AMD was now $13 a share. $13 a share. Now, when I assessed AMD, I thought it was a really interesting business model. They had some really interesting things going on there, but at that time their financials were complete junk, just to be quite frank. They took a net loss year after year after year. If you look at 2014, they lost $403 million. 2015, they lost $660 million. And then 2016, they lost almost $500 million. The company was a money loser, and by the way, that's the reason the company got down to $2. It was a $2 chuck. You lose fortunes of money like that, you're going to go down there, right? But there were some folks back then that really understood AMD. AMD's always had one of the most intelligent investor bases you will find of any stock in the entire stock market. And I see some of those comments even from back in the day. I'm like, dang, man, people make really good calls. Look at this comment it was over 8 years ago. It's a good video, Jeremy. I, as you know, have been long AMD since the very low range of $2 to $4, so it has been an incredible investment for me. I'm still holding because I believe this coming year in 2019 beyond, they'll be able to significantly and aggressively take market share away from Intel in many markets such as data center and machine learning. Ryzen chipset is also the next generation of gaming for both console and PC, and that was a pretty freaking good call, man. Like well done. And there was a lot of people that are very, very educated on this company, right? But that's the AMD of old, right? Now we have a new AMD. And this is what people are looking at now. They're looking at a stock that over the past 4 years, this is a 4-year chart, against AMD versus S&P 500 versus the NASDAQ and versus NVIDIA. And what they see nowadays is an AMD that's up 22% in the past 4 years. Meanwhile, the S&P 500 has dwarfed the returns and gotten a 37% return. And the QQQ is up 46%. So you could have over doubled your returns over the past 4 years. If you were 4 years ago today, you were buying the NASDAQ instead of buying AMD. Meanwhile, if you had bought NVIDIA stock is up 590%. People look at this and are like, dang, man, like AMD, kind of sucks, right? Like that's the feeling you get if you've held the stock for the past 4 years, right? Now, if we look at a 1-year chart, it might even be uglier because you look at a 1 year and AMD is down 27.5%. Meanwhile, NVIDIA's up 9%, the S&P 500's up 10%, and the NASDAQ's up 10%. So you got a huge negative return on AMD over the past year. Meanwhile, NVIDIA's nicely green. The S&P 500 is as well, and the Qs are. And this is why people have started to make jokes around AMD as advanced money destroyer. It's the disintegrator, right? Advanced money disintegrator. And the reason being is, gosh, if you held the stock for the past 4 years, you got a really bad taste in your mouth, right? If you held the stock for the past year, you got a really bad taste in your mouth. But something has just changed in regards to this company. Look at this. Oh my gosh. This is since the April bottom. And look at the stock that has now performed the best since the April bottom out of everything. It's AMD. If we look at the return since that April bottom, the S&P 500 has climbed 20% from the bottom. The NASDAQ has climbed about 27% from the bottom. NVIDIA is up 46%. And AMD is the best return profile of them all, up 48%. So clearly there's something going on here in regards to AMD that finally has people saying, you know what? The time to start accumulating AMD shares has come. Now, there were some absolute game-changing things that occurred yesterday. And I need to show you guys what happened, what occurred, and all those sorts of things in this video here today. So the first thing we're going to go over in this video is we're going to cover the big stuff that happened yesterday, which there was some huge stuff that's going to be game-changing for AMD's financials for years and years to come. And I'm not just talking about the next couple years, 2-3 years. No, I'm talking about for the next 10, 20 years, okay? Additionally, I'm going to give you my updated price target on the stock for the next 3 years. We're going to do that in this video here today, okay? Additionally, I went ahead yesterday and got a chance to record Lisa Su's exclusive interview with CNBC, and I don't think a lot of people have gotten to see that yet, so I want to show you what she said in that interview, so we'll be going over all that. One thing, and one thing only I need from you guys for this beast of a video here today. I need you to smash that like button. Please do that for me. I have a goal for this video, 10,000 likes. My guess is 100,000 people will watch this video over time. If we can get 10,000 of the 100,000 to like this video, that means the world to me. I hope you guys understand these type of videos on the main channel take a lot of time and attention to put together for you guys. And I hope you appreciate it, because I certainly appreciate you guys always joining me. Additionally, if you want to subscribe to the channel, you can certainly subscribe. We're well over 860,000 subscribers here strong on the channel, okay? Additionally, obviously, you guys know all the stuff, Iran, Israel, stuff like that. If there's ever some breaking news that's really big, that's impacting the market, a lot of times I'll cover that on my reaction channel, Jeremy Lefebvre Makes Money. So, because I can just get videos out really quick on that channel. This channel takes a long time to get a video out. So if there's ever breaking news, I always pay attention to kind of the reaction channel, because I'll probably get something breaking out much more quicker to you guys, right? Versus, a lot more time consuming like this. And I think it's worth mentioning, oh my gosh, you gotta be flipping my flapjacks. Palantir. Look at Palantir. Stock up again today. Whole market's going down. I mean, Dow, last time I looked, was down 800 plus points. NASDAQ was getting wrecked. The Russell was getting wrecked even worse. And yet Palantir, up, man. Unbelievable Palantir, right? Okay, and by the way, remember, Palantir 3 years ago was like AMD's been in the past. People thought that was a money disintegrator stock. It was a stock you just throw your money into and it gets burned away. You know why? Because Palantir went from like $30, $40 stock to $5. It was a $5 stock, right? It almost went to the gulag. Got close to the gulag, man. That's crazy, right? Alrighty, so let's cover the big stuff that happened here yesterday, because there's some huge stuff. Listen, right off the bat, Lisa Su comes out flexing. She says, I've been incredibly proud to say that billions of people use AMD technology every day, whether you're talking about services like Microsoft Office 365 or Facebook or Zoom or Netflix or Uber or Salesforce or SAP. They're running on AMD infrastructure, right? In AI, the biggest cloud and AI companies are using Instinct to power their latest models and new production workloads. And there's a ton of new innovations that's coming for new AI startups, right? So she's flexing right off the gate. And I think that's important because, you got somebody like Stacy Rascon, who's supposed to be this like chip analyst who's like knows everything about chips, right? He goes on CNBC, it was a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and I reacted to the video on the reaction channel. So disrespectful to AMD, in my personal opinion. He said something along the lines of, I'm not even sure we need them. Listen, if you don't need them, why is Microsoft using them, and Facebook, and Zoom, and Netflix, and Uber, and Salesforce, and SAP, and all these big companies? Like, at the end of the day, yes, they're very, very necessary in these markets, okay? It says, as with many companies now, including partner Dell and rival NVIDIA, AMD is now talking about AI agents. This is this new huge opportunity. And Salesforce, it looks like one of the best companies to kind of benefit from AI agents. There's going to be many companies that benefit from AI agents and how those help businesses. But they benefit companies like AMD and NVIDIA in a huge, huge way, right? Sue says that agentic AI represents a new class of user. This is important. What we're actually seeing is we're adding the equivalent of billions of new virtual users to the global compute infrastructure. So I use the internet. You watching this video right now, guess what? You use the internet too. You know how I know you use the internet? Because you're watching this video right now, okay? We all use the internet. We're users of the internet. Well, if you got these AI agents, right, they're going to be using the internet too. You know why? Because they got to get answers for all this stuff. They got to do this. They got to do this. They got to figure all this stuff out, right? if a business is using a bunch of these AI agents to solve customer problems and things like that, guess what? There you're going to be using the compute infrastructure, right? All these agents are here to help us, and they require lots of GPUs and lots of CPUs working together in an open ecosystem. So this is important, and the more AI agents that are out there, the more demand for compute there is, which benefits a company like AMD handsomely, right? AI isn't just a cloud or data center question now. It's also an endpoint question, and particularly the PC. We expect to see AI deployed in every single device. That's big in itself, because you could be talking about separate chips in every single device that is just there to help with AI-related problems. No different than an iPhone has a bunch of different chips made up of it. Some of those are to help with communications, RF type stuff. Some of that might be for, audio translation. Some of it's to obviously run the device, right? And all those sorts of things, right? Sue hints at another theme that's becoming popular among many new enterprise hardware providers: open source and openness. AMD is the only company committed to openness across hardware, software, and solutions, Sue claims. The history of our industry shows us that time and time again, innovation truly takes off when things are open. Now, a little bit of shots at NVIDIA there, because NVIDIA looks like they're trying to build a walled garden there, right? Similar to like an Apple. AMD's taking a different approach. They're taking an approach of, we want this to be an open ecosystem, everybody can use it, and that's the way it's going to be, right? So they're going about it a little bit more like an Android versus iOS, right? But they're trying to do a little bit more of an Android route. They're going about it a little bit more like, you could look at a ton of different verticals over time, and the ones that went more open ended up becoming the bigger thing over time versus kind of something that's closed, right? And she gave examples of that as well, right? Then Sue was joined by Sun, who's the XAI, I believe CEO, and they're behind Grok. So if you use X, which by the way, if you use X and you want to ever follow me on X, I always have my X page linked in the description area of all these videos, right? But if you use X, you might use Grok sometimes, okay? And so XAI, Sun focuses on how his small team is bolstered by AMD hardware like MI300X, and of course, openness he talks about, right? Now, this is when the presentation starts to get really, really important, because they start to shift to talking about MI350. Now, you got to understand, MI350 is the real big game-changing product for AMD to really enter this AI fight. They're already in it, right? But in terms of we're coming now, we got the weapons, MI350 marks a huge, huge bump up in terms of the ability for inference specifically versus the basic 300 series. A 350 is a whole new bump level up there, and then MI400 is a whole other level, okay? With the MI350 series, we're delivering the largest generational performance lead in the history of Instinct, and we're already in deep development of MI400 for 2026. Obviously, that's going to be a 2026 story. My guess is that will take off at some point mid 2026, or maybe back half 2026 is my guess there. Today, I'm super excited to launch the MI350 series, our most advanced AI platform ever, that delivers leadership performance across the most demanding models this series, she says. Adding that while AMD will talk about MI355 and the MI350, they're actually the same silicon, but MI355 supports higher thermals and power envelopes so that we can deliver more real-world performance. So don't think like, if you get an MI350, like that's like way worse than an MI355 or something like that. Just specific things you would need a 355 for over a 350, okay? Now, Sue claims that the 350 series will deliver a massive 4x generational leap in AI compute. By the way, from what I heard, MI400 should be a 10x. But the 350 is huge, and this is why I tell you guys, like, this is the big step for AMD to really start moving the needle in regards to the revenue numbers, because companies are going to be ordering these hand over fist when you're talking about delivering a 4x generational leap in AI compute to accelerate both training and inference. Some of the specs are talking about 288 gigabytes of memory, running up to 20 billion parameters on a single GPU. Obviously the chip's very impressive. MI400 will even be a whole other level up there, right? Then they bring out Meta's VP of engineering behind, obviously, the Llama model, right? We're seeing critical advancements that started with inferencing and now extending to all of your AI offering. I think AMD and Meta have always been strongly aligned, right? And obviously Meta and AMD have a very strong relationship. And, if you think about who do you really want to have a strong relationship with in the AI space, gosh, like Meta's right at the top of the list because Meta's integrating AI in basically every single product they have. I can't think of anything that Meta is got going on with that company, and obviously that's my biggest position in the public account. I can't think of anything they're doing that's not incorporating AI. They're incorporating AI in several different ways on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, like everything. And then they got the Llama models, which that's a massive opportunity over this next 10 plus years. So, it's good to be in with those guys. No. Song then explains that MI350 will become a key part of the company's AI infrastructure. It's already using the MI300X accelerators. We're also quite excited about the capabilities of MI350X, he says. It brings significantly more compute, power, and acceleration memory to support FP4, FP6, all while maintaining the safety pull factor at MI300 so we can deploy quickly. Now, they go ahead, they show off like their MI350 series solution partners, and it's, all the companies you'd want to have up there. Oracle, Dell, Supermicro, Cisco, HP, all those type of companies, right? Now, this gets really interesting because now we start moving on to Microsoft and AMD. So Bopana is a little more on kind of the software side of AMD more than the hardware side, but basically, they have Eric Boyd come on, who's a CVP of AI platforms at Microsoft. The two are discussing Microsoft and AMD's long-standing partnership, with Boyd saying Microsoft has been using several generations of Instinct. It's been a key part of our inferencing platform, and we've integrated ROCMs to our inferencing stack, making it really easy for us to take and deploy models on the platform, he says. Now, additionally here, I thought this was actually really, really big. They're talking about what they describe as a new opportunity for driving down inference costs. This is huge because you got to understand, more and more of these chips are going to need to be needed, right? More and more, at the end of the day, like if you're talking about people are going to use ChatGPT more often, people are going to use all these different AI products more often, right? Gemini, and go down the whole list of them. There's a million of them, right? AI agents. You need massively more chips than you already have. Now, additionally, you need these chips to be even more powerful, which means you have to pay even more money. This is where AMD comes in big, in my opinion. If you want to talk about differentiating AMD versus NVIDIA, AMD is really looking to help bring down the costs for these companies. Because you can see the way the numbers are going for Meta, for Microsoft, all these companies, Google, run the whole list of them, Microsoft, Amazon, all of them. It's going to get to a point where they'll end up spending more than they're even making in profits. That's why you have to bring down the cost. And so I'm sure Microsoft's looking at how much they're spending on all these chips, right? How much they're going to likely spend over the next few years. I'm sure they're looking at what OpenAI is spending, and obviously Microsoft's a massive shareholder, OpenAI. And, you start to have these conversations about, we got to bring down cost in regards to this whole situation because, the money's going to flow, but the money doesn't flow right away in terms of you starting to make money. And so this is where AMD starts to really matter in quite a significant way here, okay? In any LLM serving application, there are two phases. There's the pre-fill phase and the decode phase. These two phases of the model are typically handled by the same GPU. But now, if you use the same GPU, it often becomes a bottleneck for large models. Or when demand spikes happen, you can get limited in performance or flexibility. Disaggregating the pre-fill in the decode phase can significantly improve throughput, reduce cost, and boost responsiveness, he says. And I think that matters pretty significantly in regards to that, right? Now, they also talk about Developer Cloud, which has massive opportunity for this company. With Developer Cloud, anyone with a GitHub ID or an email address can get access to an instant GPU with just a few clicks, he says, directing developers who want to give it a try to go to dev.amd.com. That's a massive opportunity for this company as well. Then they bring out the big dog, I take you back to the whole Stacy Rascon comment about like, I don't know if we really need AMD. Sam Altman is the man right now. He's the one everybody wants to interview right now. Why? Because he's leading arguably the most important AI company in the world. That's what it is viewed. And so Sam Altman can be just about anywhere he wants to be right now. The fact that he shows up to AMD's event, I think speaks volumes about how important AMD is to a company like OpenAI. Because that man could be anywhere getting interviewed by anybody or working, doing whatever. And the fact that he goes to that AMD event, that says more than anything he says here in itself, okay? Now, surprise guest, someone who's really an icon of AI, Sam Altman comes out. So Altman talks about his company and what he's seen in the market. I think the models have gotten good enough that people have been able to build really great products, text, image, voice, and all kinds of reasoning capabilities. We've seen extremely quick adoption in the enterprise now. Coding has been one area people talk about a lot, but I think what we're hearing again and again and again in all these different ways is that these tools have gone from things that were, fun and curious to truly useful, he says, right? And man, I just think about like, could OpenAI be the first company to come public with $1 trillion valuation? Like that's what I'm thinking, right? Now, asked by Sue on how compute demands are changing, Altman says, one of the biggest differences has been we moved to these reasoning models. So we have had these very long rollouts where a model that often will come back with a better answer. This is really the pressure on model efficiency and long context for all of this. We need tons of computers, tons of memory, tons of CPUs as well. People think CPUs are like irrelevant. Sam Altman says, no, we need tons of CPUs as well, not just GPUs. That's important. Remember, what we're discussing here today has a lot to do with AI and GPUs. But let's not forget, AMD's got a whole bunch of businesses that aren't exactly in the realm that we're really focused on for this video here today. That's important, okay? And our infrastructure ramp over the last year and what we're looking at for next year has been just crazy things to watch. What does he mean by crazy? Is he talking about crazy spend next year? Turn to the hardware used to support OpenAI's platforms like ChatGPT. Altman says the company is already running some work on MI300X, but we are extremely excited. It says here MI450, but from what I remember, he was talking about MI350. Remember, MI350 is what's launching right now. MI450, I mean, shoot, that's not even going to be till 6 months or 12 months after MI400 comes out. So I think what it should say here is MI350. Keep that in mind, okay? But he's extremely excited about that, and the memory architecture is great for inference. Big. Remember what Lisa Su has said in the past. She says she believes AMD is extremely well positioned for inference, and she believes inference is going to be exponentially bigger. And I believe from Jensen's comments as well, inference is going to be exponentially bigger than training. And so when Sam Altman says we're excited for the new MI350 chip that's about to hit, right? And this architecture is great for inference, I don't know what else to tell you. Like if Wall Street's having any trouble understanding this, just understand the most important man in the world in AI says he's very excited for the next chips, and they're great for inference, which is exactly what you need to be in the market for. And he showed up and proudly spoke at an event for AMD. If you are confused about what AMD's opportunity is here, I don't have anything left to tell you. If that's not enough proof, I don't know what to tell you. The most important man in the world in AI went to this event, spoke in front of everybody, and told them, listen, man, chips are great for inference. What more could you ask for? Sue asked Altman what he sees for the future of AI. How will workloads evolve? What happens with quote unquote AGI, artificial general intelligence. He says, I think we're going to maintain the same rate of progress, rate of models for the second half of this decade as we did the first. I wasn't so sure about the couple of years ago for a new research thing to figure out, but now it looks like we'll be able to deliver on that. So if you think forward to 2030, these systems will be capable of remarkable new stuff about scientific discovery, running extremely complex functions, throughout society, and things that we just couldn't even imagine, he continues. It's really going to take these are huge systems now, very complex engineering projects, very complex research, and to keep on this path of scaling, we've got to work together across research, engineering, hardware, and how we're going to deliver these systems and products. This has gotten quite complex, but if we can do on that, if we can deliver on that, it drives collaboration across the whole industry and will keep this curve moving forward, right? So I think it's important to take a step back here, because we're all talking about right now MI350, and that's about to ramp. That's so exciting. Like, that's going to mean huge things for AMD's revenue, profitability, all that stuff, right? And then we're going to be talking about MI400 next year, and like that's going to be a whole new level higher for AMD's revenue, profits, relevance, everything across the board, right? Oh my gosh. And then we'll be talking about MI450 eventually, right? The thing you got to understand is chips just keep evolving. They keep getting more complex, they keep getting better and more powerful, okay? But listen, don't get too caught up into the short-term stuff. Sam Altman's talking about the 2030. He's talking about the 2030s, right? This is not just a 1 or 2 year game. This is a next 10, 20-year game. And a company like AMD is positioning themselves very well for the next 10 to 20 years in these markets. Very, very well, right? Now, AI, even myself personally, we're starting to use AI. Obviously I use Gemini sometimes, right? But even I'm starting to use it for my little company, my small business, right? Which is 1000xstocks.com. We've even now just integrated AI into it. I had the developers working on something for 1000x here that's very, very exciting. And I always thought something like this would be cool, and we were able to execute it, and we just launched it last night. And so now when you type in, a ticker symbol for a conference call, we actually are able to do 1000x AI summary, which will give you a summary of what happened on that conference call roughly. Now keep in mind, always still listen to full conference call, you'll get even more detail. But how cool is this? Imagine you're researching a company, you're like, I want to look into this Palantir company, right? And so you hit Palantir and boom, look at that. What was that, a second? And it gave me a summary of Palantir's latest conference call here. Revenue and profitability trends, revenue growth trajectory. Palantir reported steady year-over-year revenue growth, blah, 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 right? Like, isn't that insane? That is so cool. And this is just, the early innings here. Like, we're just going to keep taking this up to new levels. And, like literally we just launched it on the website last night. And we'll keep working on this and keep making it better and better and better. But, I mean, that's just a good example of, like, how a small business like mine is already starting to figure out ways to integrate AI into the products, right? Like, how cool is this? Generating summary with AI. Like, cool. Maybe I already broke it. I might have broke it already. Oh my gosh. Well, hey, we just launched it last night, okay? We got work to do, okay? Let me see if I type in Apple. Maybe. Oh, no, there we go. Microsoft one. It just took longer for Microsoft. So my guess is it has to listen to the whole conference call and then it deciphers in AI. Like, I don't know how the developers pulled it off, but I'm like, this is sick. How sick is that, man? That's just for a small business like I have. Alrighty, let's go ahead now and let's listen to Lisa Su speak here, because I think this is really
for acquisitions that have helped really broaden.
Hey, what's going on?
Riem and Lemon joining us, but from Nod.ai, a bunch of strategic investments.
How, if at all, are these geopolitical tensions?
Is my internet going bad? What's going on here, man? Come on, you be flipping my flapjacks. What in the world? Maybe my internet's went bad. Okay, well, before we do the Lisa Su interview, let's do something. Let's run projections. Okay, let's run some projections. We'll just do some intermediate projections here on AMD. And you can see my different cases here. So my bull case for AMD here is that this company will do I would say about a 40% revenue growth number per year on average over the next 4 years, 2026 to 2029, okay? With I would say about a 55% net income growth number per year on average over the coming years, assuming MI350 is a huge success, which it looks like it will be. MI400, then they'll have the 450 coming out. Then we'll be talking about MI500. Like, whew, big stuff here. Now, with those sorts of growth rates, you could command somewhere between about a 40. Obviously, if it was a software company, direct, it would trade for way bigger multiples than this. But 40 to 60 is pretty fair if the company's growing at those sorts of growth rates, right? That puts the stock come 2029 somewhere between $800 and about $1,200. Now, my base case is a little more conservative than that. I have them doing 30% revenue growth on average per year with 40% net income growth on average per year. Now, this would put them at net margins come 2029 of 24%, which, keep in mind, that would be very, very low compared to a company like AMD, or excuse me, compared to a company like nvidia right now. They're at way bigger numbers than that. I would say, at those sorts of growth rates in the semi space, I would say about a 35 to a 45 PE is very fair for a company with those sorts of growth rates. And that puts the base case there at 2029, we can call it mid $400 to about $600 under my base case. Now, my bear case is only 20% revenue growth per year. This would be a big miss for AMD, just to be quite frank, with 30% net income growth. This would be very disappointing. I think Lisa Su would be extremely, extremely disappointed with herself and the whole team if they only did these numbers. So 25s up top for the PE ratios, 35s on the bottoms for the PE ratios here under this scenario. So even under in a horrible, like disastrous next many years, which 20% revenue growth for AMD for 2026, 29 on average, like that would be a disaster for AMD, just to be quite frank, with how much growth this company should have over the coming years. Like, they shouldn't even be close to that sort of number. It should be at least 30%. But 20%, look at my return still. The stock we're talking about $250 to about $350, and that's in a horrible, disastrous situation for AMD, like a disaster. I'll be honest, like if they only do 20% revenue growth on average, that's like a fail, complete fail. And Lisa Su, I think, would tell you like that's a huge fail for our business if we only grew at those sorts of rates. That'd be crazy. So the moral of the story is here.
And when? How does openness fit into your strategy?
I don't know what's going on here.
We're still in the very early innings of AI. And frankly, as much as we've seen a ramp up in AI, we have sort of next number of years to over $500 billion in 2028. That's a huge market. And, in that market, what people...
You know what it is? It's not my internet. You know what it is? Yesterday, a bunch of these services, Fubo, it was like everything was like down for a certain amount of time yesterday. Like YouTube was having issues, Google was having issues, Snapchat was having issues, like everybody was having issues. So this was right around the time they were having all those issues. So I think that's what screwed it up here. But I don't know, man.
I can just give you some stats, right? If you look at the solution that we're just talking about,
all right, internet's not going to work here.
And you asked about Open. Open is the foundation of what we do at AMD.
Yeah, this is.
And look, Apple's a great ecosystem. iOS is a great ecosystem, but there are limitations to what developers.
Yeah, and she's making the same point about openness there, and Android versus iOS and those sorts of things, right? So. The moral of the story is here, AMD's got everything running in the right direction. And last thing I'll address here is like, why is Wall Street not, recognizing it? They're late. They're late. They're going to be late again. A year from now, 2 years from now, they're going to be trampling over themselves to buy this stock. Maybe even 6 months from now, they'll be trampling over themselves to buy this stock. Right now, they're not. As soon as the numbers start to really show up for all this stuff that's actually going on underneath, then they're going to be like, oh yeah, this is a big thing, blah, 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 right? Same thing happened with NVIDIA. I could take you back and show you NVIDIA stock fell 50% during 2022, peak to trough, from where it was end of 21 to where it was at, kind of those lows in 22, and then what happened with NVIDIA over the next few years? It went up 1,000%, 1,000%. They should have been buying like crazy in 2022. Why were they selling everything in 2022? Because they had no clue what was actually going on or how tech was going to transform. They'll catch up to all this. Believe me, they'll catch up to all this. Late. The same guys that won't buy the stock at 117 today will be happy to pay 217 a year from now. This is Wall Street, man. They'll be happy to pay $3.17. So, you know, always fascinating in regards to that. And the retail shareholders will get there before the Wall Streeters get there again. It happens again and again and again, okay? Hope you guys really enjoyed today's video. Hey, if you're looking for access to 1000xstocks.com, all the features we have here, including my education feature as well, which is absolutely phenomenal. Like, it's all cool about the search feature and being able to compare stocks, but what about the education portion? Oh my gosh, these are so phenomenal, right? Like how to value a growth stock here. Like there's a whole education portion that goes all in depth on how to value a growth stock. Like so valuable, all these lessons on 1000x, right? If you want access to that, plus all my course curriculums, my video course curriculums in my private stock group, my private Discord chat, all that good stuff, I'll put it as a pinned comment down there. You click on that, you fill out a form, and we'll see if you're a good fit to join us in there. Maybe next week at some time, okay? Alrighty, guys, appreciate you joining me. Much love and have a great day.